I'd like to talk over the next 3 slides about how Ubuntu is governed, so what's the internal structure, how decisions are made, and so forth. The first and most important part of the way Ubuntu is governed and runs, I suppose, day to day, is the Ubuntu teams. These are groups of individuals who focus on particular areas of Ubuntu, not necessarily just technical. We have a team who looks at marketing, for example, or documentation teams that are very important to the project success, internationalisation. So these are all teams that work on Ubuntu who are working on maybe not so much technical areas, but other areas, people who do artwork, for example. But then there are more technically oriented groups who look after making sure Ubuntu have input on the way Ubuntu runs on laptops and servers, on particular processing architectures, and so forth. So these teams form a very integral part of the overall Ubuntu community. Then we have our local community teams, or LOCO teams, and these groups, as the name suggests, are based on particular geographies. And of course, there's the Ubuntu Taiwan LOCO teams that are involved with COSCUP, who do a wonderful job. Very much appreciate all their work. But the LOCO teams will invariably be based in a particular city or country, and will tie in with the local Linux user group. Next part of the way Ubuntu is governed is with the technical board. This is a group of people who are responsible for all the technical decisions or technical direction that Ubuntu takes. The technical board is charged with or responsible for making final decisions over essentially any matter to do with Ubuntu that is technical. This could include the choice of kernel or library version that is going to be used in a particular release, what toolchain will be used, or things like what packages are going to be included or what our packaging policy is. So these are all decisions that are overseen by the technical board. The technical board at the moment is chaired by Matt Zimmerman, who is also the CTO of Canonical. And last but by no means least, we have the Ubuntu Community Council. The Community Council in many ways is similar to the Technical Council, but rather than being in charge of looking after technical aspects of the distribution, the Community Council is in charge of the social structures and community processes within Ubuntu. So making sure the community as a social structure works correctly. Their roles include things like approving the creation of new teams or new projects within Ubuntu, the appointment of team leaders and this sort of thing. They're also very importantly responsible for overseeing the code of conduct, that we have for Ubuntu, and this really tells us how we should behave as members of the Ubuntu community. An important role that they have, and thankfully one that does not get used very often, is as custodians of that code of conduct. The Ubuntu Community Council is one of the groups that are responsible for dispute resolution. So if there is a situation in our community where people cannot agree, then often the Ubuntu Community Council will get involved to help break that deadlock. I'd like to take a moment to talk about how Canonical has sought to help grow Linux and free software and basically make it better. Obviously, the future success of free software and growing Linux as a whole, and Linux and free software as a whole is very, very important to Canonical's ongoing success, so this is something we invest considerable effort into. There are a number of different ways that we do this. We contribute code directly, so we actually have people in Canonical engineers developing and writing code directly for free software packages. We also do various things that are more like facilitation, so we facilitate internationalisation and translation of open source packages, particularly ones that are used within Ubuntu. We've done quite a lot of work on tools, and perhaps one of the most visible ones is Launchpad, which Martin, my colleague, will talk about tomorrow. But Launchpad has been perhaps interesting on a couple of different fronts. It has proven to be quite a successful way for people to collaborate and work on free software projects together. But almost as a side effect, or a very positive one, it has also helped us within the free software community more broadly to have a consistent way of managing all our bugs. So it used to be that if you had a bug in a particular package, there was no particular way of relating that to a bug that is related to it in one of the upstream packages or somewhere else in the free software ecosystem. So Launchpad has provided a way that we can tie these things together. So if you have a bug in a particular package that ultimately needs something fixed in Python, we now have a way of sort of keeping track of all of that. And there's also, of course, Bazaar or BZR, which has become a very popular source code management tool, and these are both projects that Canonical's had considerable input into. There's been a great deal of talk about Canonical's contribution to the community from a coding standpoint, and while we obviously think that is important, we think it's equally important that we have been able to extend free software's reach, perhaps in maybe more practical ways in a sense. One of the most obvious ways of this was that Ubuntu was targeted right from the start as being the end user experience being very, very important. So we wanted Ubuntu to work well out of the box and just to be able to install on the laptop and work the way a customer or an end user would expect. And I think one of the strengths of Ubuntu, particularly now, is that it has allowed people who would normally not have any contact with Linux or maybe not even be aware of the fact they're using an operating system. It has been their first introduction into free software. The Shipper program, I think most of you got CDs on your way in, has been another very popular initiative that Canonical has funded and run, and that is you can basically send us an email or fill out a form online and we will ship you CDs with Ubuntu on it. And this has been enormously popular, particularly in developing countries where the infrastructure or the bandwidth isn't there to allow people to download these images themselves. And then last but by no means least, the Canonical and the Ubuntu project overall has changed things quite dramatically. You can now buy systems that have Ubuntu pre-installed, and John O'Bacon blogged about or tweeted about one recently which even has a Canonical logo, or an Ubuntu logo I should say, on the case of the laptop itself. So the fact that you can actually buy systems pre-installed with Linux is something that we're quite happy or quite pleased to be able to contribute to. So talk something about a little bit closer to home for me, and just make a few points about the way we do kernel development within Canonical. Unfortunately, I have a number of my colleagues from the kernel team here today, all of whom appear to be awake, which is a good sign. But we have a distributed kernel team which does a number of different things within Canonical. The kernel team as a whole provides a kernel that goes into the base distribution. So this is the kernel that you get on the CD or in the image that you download. But my team in particular works with the OEM, ODM partners to provide hardware enablement. So we'll actually work directly with manufacturers to do custom builds for their system that can be pre-installed on hardware and shipped out. From a kernel team perspective, a lot of that work then becomes that of writing and integrating device drivers, fixing bugs if they appear, and working with the manufacturers as early as we can to encourage them to provide good open source driver support. We're also now in the fortunate position of, in some respects, being able to influence manufacturers to say, well, you really do need to provide open source drivers for your hardware, or you're cutting yourself out of a growing proportion of the market. As a practical matter, as I mentioned a few slides ago, we do 2 releases of Ubuntu each year, every 6 months apart. What that means is that we will then rebase our kernels off the mainline release, off Linus's tree, roughly twice a year. So we take a decision about 3 months, 4 months before the release date before the next release date, and decide what kernel version we'll be based on. What we try and do there is obviously stay as close as we can to Debian and the other distributions, and in fact our senior kernel developers will actually talk to their peers at Red Hat and SUSE and other distros, and just trying to keep things consistent across so that we basically all try and end up on the same kernel version. That improves stability, reduces the number of bugs that need to be fixed.